Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I'm Jerry Horner, and joining me today is Tony LiCausi, and he's a fellow member of the Bella Vista Garden Club and a fellow Benton County Master Gardener, and he's going to be sharing his knowledge with us. Today we're going to be talking about getting a head start in your garden by starting seeds indoors. So that's going to be a good topic to get started for the year. And we'll also be talking about upcoming events and some things you need to do in your garden for March. March starts off the gardening year, so we're going to have to start getting busy. In the meantime, we do have a new background. The daffodils back here are Bella Vista daffodils, and that's Tony's main project he did years ago and still doing.
Still doing.
And we have Bella Vista daffodils planted all over the city, and we're going to probably order more again this fall.
We will be ordering more this fall.
So you can add these to your garden. Mine are only up a few inches, but they'll be blooming in March.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's several hundred different cultivars of daffodils with a lot of different romantic names, but this particular daffodil is known worldwide as the Bella Vista daffodil.
Yeah, that's why it's so special.
Exactly.
And March is also the time, well, it's St. Patrick's Day in March. And we usually had our Bella Vista Club card party benefit.
Yep.
But that's going to be canceled again because of the shutdown and the virus. So hopefully next year we'll be able to get back to our normal schedules. And you have to mark your calendar, the spring plant sales. We're going to have one on April 16th and 17th for the coleus and tomatoes. That's the Bella Vista Garden Club at the wastewater. And then again on May 20th and through the 22nd, that's when we're going to have the majority of our plants. We have a lot of plants ready.
Yeah, I've been down there,
and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, she's really got it loaded, and I know there's that much more still coming. So there's going to be a big selection.
Yeah, it's plant, shrubs, perennials, bulbs, you name it.
Yep.
We're going to have it. Okay, and also the Benton County Master Gardeners will hold their plant sale and expo on May 14th and 15th. They don't know quite the location yet. They're looking at different locations, but put it on your calendar and we'll have more next month. So that's always a good sale too. So, but today we're going to talk about starting seeds. So getting a head start in your garden.
Yep.
And there's several things you have to think about.
Yep.
Soil temperature, moisture, light, seed starting mix, seed to soil contact, and air movement. So the ideal soil temperature range can usually be found on the packets. I don't have a packet with me, but the little seed packets, sometimes they'll have the range of temperature of the soil that's necessary.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on those packets. It's very important.
You want to save
Very
them.
important to read the back of the packet before you start.
Yes, yes, because it'll tell you the depth of this.
Exactly.
You know how deep. But anyway. And the moisture, you need to soak that soil before you put it in your little containers. You have to really mix it in a bowl or in a bucket or something because it's hard to get that soil moist enough. So, and the light, you need light to get these, once they break ground, you need light 12 to 14 hours a day.
Yep.
So, and grow lights are good.
Yep.
Okay. And then the seed starting mix, seed starting, there's a lot of different varieties and different brands.
A lot of them. We're
Some
talk
are
about that.
better than others, and Tony's going to talk about that.
Yep.
But there's just a lot of different brands. And then you have to have that seed to soil contact, so that seed has to really be in contact with the soil, and we've got some tips about that too. And then air movement, it's important. I didn't realize that air movement is so important because outside, when you plant seeds outside, you know, they're used to that air movement. And I think that helps with the problem of damping off. You know, like if there's air movement, you don't get that bacteria buildup. So,
right.
Yeah. So Tony, and timing of the seeds is important. So you need to know when the frost date is. Our frost date, is April 10th, I believe. Our last frost date usually is. It can be later.
Well, generally, the fruit bearing time or the flowering time of the plant is going to pretty much dictate when it needs to go in the ground, and when it's going to go in the ground pretty much dictates when the seed has to be started.
Right.
So you sort of work backward from when does that particular plant produce the fruit or the flower, and then work backwards from it, usually 6 to 8 weeks to seed planting. You know.
Right. And your packet will tell you too.
Yeah, that'll tell you
it's
too.
on your packet. So we have some samples that you're going to show us how to actually
just some just little simple tips that sort of take the mystery out of seed starting.
So you want to start your demo?
Sure.
And then I also have some seeds I started to show.
Yeah, we'll show them that too.
A little show and tell.
A couple of things. I'm going to step down here to my little table, show you some things you can do. You know, with spring starting, all the nurseries are starting to get in a ton of plants. And keep in mind that for about $3.75, if you start it from seeds, you can get about 100 zinnia plants. Try doing that at a nursery.
Yeah.
And for about the same price, for $3, $4, $5, you can get about 40 tomato plants. So there is some economy to starting your own seeds, plus the success. Container-wise, you know, you can start with something as simple as a styrofoam cup. Make sure you put holes in the bottom. You can use that. And you can use something as simple as an egg carton, again with holes in the bottom.
Yeah, and those egg cartons that are more
and then there's
cardboard are
there's
better.
the cardboard ones also.
They're good.
The only problem with them is when they start breaking down and getting kind of loose, but they do work.
Yeah.
This is what I use because I do quite a few seeds. I use a tray with 6 of these little 6-packs in it, and like Jerry said before, you want a good potting mix. This particular seed starting mix is pretty general at most box stores, and I did find yesterday. I finally found out after living here 13 years from the producer that probably starts more plants from seeds than anybody in Northwest Arkansas what they use. I found out yesterday.
Who is that?
Huh? You want me to say put it on air?
Well,
I'll do it.
is it Matkins or is it?
Yeah, it's at Matkins, and it's Burger Seed Starting Mix. BERGER. That's all they use, 100%.
Well, there's also Jiffy, and then there's Miracle Grow.
Yeah, this is Jiffy. There's Miracle Grow. There's Happy Frog.
I think I had Fox Farm.
I've tried several. They all work. Some work better than others, and then there's a lot of other little tricks that when you go to YouTube, you'll find. When I put my mix in the container, I tap it down pretty good, you know. And then once I fill these trays, then I drown it, okay? And then just let it, when the water stops running out of it, it's good and wet. Then the next thing you want to do is, like we said before, read the seed packet, you know. And some of those seeds are really, 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 really tiny.
And you know, Tony, what I did on mine is I took a
little piece of paper.
No, I took a 1-ply, this is 2-ply. I took a 1-ply of the toilet paper.
Yep.
And I cut the little, you know, thing out. And when you set that on the soil, you can see exactly where your seeds are. But when you put them on the soil, they're hard to see.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
That's a good way to do it. I do that when I put seeds in the garden where I've got a big row. I do it on a long strip of paper. And I can see the seeds on there, and I lay the strip down in the soil.
And they'll still come through
then
that.
Then the paper decomposes.
Yeah.
But with a lot of those little bitty seeds, I use a jeweler's tweezers. The dental industry has a lot of little tools that are really nice too that you can pick up in thrift stores and antique, you know, junky antique stores and places like that. But that comes in real handy for picking up very tiny little seeds and then putting them at the correct depth. You'll find that the smaller the seed, the shallower they go, the bigger the seed, the deeper they go.
Right.
But again, read the back of the packet.
Now, there's some seeds, don't you have to stratify or something? They're larger
Yeah,
seeds. You have to kind of
some
cut them or
seeds
sand
you
them.
do, and some people stratify all their seeds.
Hmm.
Some people do some. I haven't done really any, and I haven't had any bad luck.
I
But
think like the
you can soak your seeds. I've known people to soak them for an hour. Some people soak them in water for overnight.
the package usually tells you what's best.
Yeah, but again, read the back of the packet. Then once it's in there, you're going to want to label it, and you can use something like throwaway from the fast food places, things like that. You can use old Venetian blinds that have been cut up. You can buy plastic ones, and I use these little wooden ones, and I print a label, and I put from my labeling gun, I put it on there, and I drive it in there like that. Then you're going to want to, like Jerry said, so you're going to want a sunny window, or if you do a grow light, you're going to want your grow light 2 to 3 inches above it. You want to keep your temperature in that 60 to 80 degree range. Most seeds are going to germinate 6 to 8 weeks. Mine are in a little greenhouse, and so if I water them, sometimes I have a tendency to overwater them, even with a small watering can. So I have found that just misting them like this with a simple little container like that, I can keep that surface, and I do it usually 2 to 3 times a day. But from 7 at night to 7 in the morning, I'm going night-night. So if you're going to be away from it for a long time, you're worried about that you don't want it to dry on top, you can, on containers like this and like the egg carton, you can use saran wrap. I use these plastic sheets like this, and I give it a good, nice little misting, and I tuck it in, and then and it holds in the heat as well, holds in the moisture till I can get to it the next morning. I usually go in the morning, take that off, feel it, and usually feels pretty good, and then I monitor it throughout the day. And then you're going to want to, the first leaf that's going to come up is, what do we call that little leaf? It's colloidal or
Coleodons.
The first little leaf that's going to come up is going to fall away after a while. And then don't panic when it turns yellow and falls away, because the real leaves of the plant are the next 2 that emerge. Once those 2 emerge, you can start a light fertilization of a liquid fertilizer once a week at half dosage. Okay. Now, if you want, let's say this is a tomato plant, you can take it out of this container or this one, whatever little container you're in, and move it to more like a little 4-inch pot, so it can get a little bit bigger before you move it to the garden.
Now these are the ones I started.
Yeah, Jerry started these. Let me show you these little guys. These are zinnias.
Well, they're zinnias and they're zinnias and lettuce. And I actually marked the container what they are.
Yeah.
And the date I planted them.
So you can see what she has here in styrofoam cups. I see she's got them sitting in water. So they're taking up the water from the bottom.
Right.
And
so if you mist them now, they're going to get a little too wet. I think the plants will get a little too wet.
Right.
And then in the greenhouse, they dry out faster.
Yeah, they dry out real fast in the greenhouse.
But in the house.
Some people will put water in the tray and then set their container in the tray and let it take it up from the bottom. I sometimes worry about them getting too wet and then it getting moldy on top. So I like to just keep them damp and not wet until they go. And then once you transfer them to a little larger container before they go to the ground, you want to start hardening them off. And when the weather's nice, take them out of your house, take them out of your greenhouse, wherever, away from that sunny window. Set them outside for the prettiest part of the day, then bring them back in. at night for about a week or so. And then once you get them in the garden, then you can start a regular fertilization program after that. So, like I say, it's there's no big mystery. It's kind of like chocolate chip cookies. There's a million recipes. So don't be intimidated by it. Experiment with it. Have fun with it, and happy gardening.
Yeah, because when you first plant them, they really don't need the light at first. Because I have in-floor heat.
Yeah.
So I planted them, and then I set them on the tile floor
Right.
in the dark.
Right.
And as long as they have that heat, then once they started germinate, then I would move them into the light.
Yeah.
But the light is important. Once they pop out of the soil, they need light.
Yep. Yep.
And that hardening off, I think they said start with an hour a day and then maybe 2 hours, and
Yeah.
get them gradually used to the
Yeah.
environment they're going to be
in my greenhouse, my heaters are down on the floor.
Right.
And so the heat rises up through it. Then at night, the plastic is catching the heat
Right.
too and trapping it in there.
And it
then when the
tends-
sun comes out, like this morning, the first
really
hour and a
warm.
half after sunrise, the temperature rose 30 degrees,
Yeah.
just that fast.
Yeah, greenhouse makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
As soon as that
So-
sun hits it, it's
And
a
then,
lot of
like I
light.
said, the light, I'm going to have to put some grow lights or some light about 2 or 3 inches above these, because they're getting a little bit leggy.
Yep.
So,
You can take it from like Jerry's done there with a tray that you got at Target or somewhere, or Walmart,
or the dollar store.
and the dollar store, and styrofoam cups, or you can go with there's a lot of different trays on the market. Once you go on the internet, there's racks with grow lights. I mean, you
yeah.
can start hundreds of plants in your crawl space.
Yeah,
With
good.
fluorescent grow lights. So it's what level you want to take it to, but it's a lot of fun. You can save a lot of money, and there's a lot of reward to putting a little bitty seed in some soil.
Right.
And in the middle of summer, you have a 4 foot by 4 foot with leaves this big around and big giant yellow blooms on it that make wonderful zucchini. So have fun with it.
And you really there's more varieties, because I bought a
That's another
packet.
thing.
The zinnias, they're called candy cane or something, and they have beautiful stripes on them. Well, I never saw zinnias like that in the nursery. So you can get some really unusual plants that you can't find in the nursery.
Exactly.
And
Well,
also the
and-
normal plants that
And
you see.
I've learned through the years that a lot of the nurseries, the stock that they get, they're sort of at the mercy of the growers.
Right.
And that sometimes the nurseries themselves don't know what's going to show up until they unload the truck.
Right.
But when you buy from catalogs, you can find some really unusual and unique and exotic things. There are seed companies, for example, that sell only Italian vegetables. Only. Okay? There are heirloom seed companies that sell only American heirloom seedlings. There are companies that sell only pure organic, no GMO, on and on and on seedlings. So you can really get selective, where that would be very difficult to do sometimes from a store. So if you're looking for a really exotic, I found a fabulous cooking tomato finally after 13 years of searching.
Right.
And it made one winter day this past winter. My wife and I got in there, and 4 hours later we had the most fabulous Sicilian-style tomato sauce you've ever put in your mouth.
Yeah, that's great.
But we did it the old-fashioned way, and it was just incredible, because it was a tomato that's famous for that near Naples in the San Maranzaro area of Italy. So
That's no end to what you can grow.
there's no
actually.
end to what
Yeah.
you can go by starting your own seeds. So
Yeah.
like I said, don't be intimidated. Have fun with it. Experiment with it. And
Give it a try.
Find what works best for you.
Yeah, give it a try. And don't be discouraged if you have some failures. Everybody has failures now and then, so
Right.
keep
oh
at
yeah.
it.
If you haven't failed, you haven't gardened.
That's right. That's right. And I think the gardening in March the biggest question we're getting is what about this terrible winter we've had and this awful cold temperatures? And I think Janet Carson had a column on it somewhere.
I get a lot of calls.
Oh, that's the main
I
question.
get a lot of
What do
calls.
we do? Do we go out and trim all this dead stuff out? What do we do? Or is everything dead,
Yeah.
you know?
Don't panic.
Wait.
Wait,
Just wait.
wait. Don't start cutting things down. Wait until they start leafing out, and then be very careful and only take out what you know is dead wood.
This is the coldest winter. We've been here 27 years. I've never seen a winter this cold for so long and so cold. And actually, I'm from St. Louis, and I've never seen in St. Louis a week of such cold, cold weather. So about 10 or 11 years ago, I think we lost a lot of nandinas because it was so cold. And it could happen again.
and I
Your
think I've lost
nandinas
some
may
too.
look just awful for a long time.
But what I found is, and what I've noticed already on the nandinas, the bamboo nandinas, like heavenly bamboo, whether they're the standard size or the dwarfs, seem like they got hit really hard.
Yes, they did.
And they may have to be cut down all the way to the ground.
And they'll come back.
Well, they'll come back.
They'll come back.
We'll have to wait and see.
But it could be a pretty devastating spring.
But if you
for
do
us.
have just a few stalks that are dead, take the stalk all the way down as low as you can get and cut it and leave the ones that are good. That's that thing. But I have seen the nandina, that thicker leaf, ruffle leaf one that is redder, that has the redder foliage to it, not that pointed bamboo style nandina. They seem to have handled the cold a lot better.
It depends on the variety.
So it depends on the different cultivar you have and how well it's going to handle it. So
but just don't do any trimming, any serious trimming until you know we know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So hold off on that.
You know, don't get all panicky. Wait till mid-April.
Yeah, I'd say so at least. And then if you do have, the other thing, if you have seeds that are older, you know, sometimes you have a seed that's 2 or 3 years old. They can still germinate.
Sure.
But you may have to just sow them a little thicker.
Yeah, that's another thing I failed to mention.
Yeah.
Usually I'll put in one of those sections, I'll put 2 seeds, sometimes 3. And then you see what germinates first, or which one, once they get up an inch or 2 high, which one looks the healthiest, and I just snip off the other 2. So I end up with just the 1 plant in the container.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
get the healthy ones.
Right.
Okay, but you need to start out cleaning out your beds and do any clipping you missed for the fall, but you just need to start cleaning up the beds in mid-March.
And amend the soil.
And the bulbs, you can plant the gladiola bulbs about 2-week intervals, and then your flowers will be
a great idea.
a longer range, you know. And don't forget, if you plant the daffodils, don't forget to leave the foliage on the plant for 6 to 8 weeks. That's what feeds the bulb for the flower next year. So if you cut that foliage off after the bloom stops, you're not going to have a flower next year.
Yep. Now on the gladiolas too, when you put the gladiola bulb in, you better put a stake right there alongside it too, because as it comes up, you're gonna need that stake.
Yeah, you forget where you plant them sometimes.
Well, you won't forget where you planted it, and
you need a stake there.
And you'll need it because once it blooms, it's going to have a tendency to fall over.
Yeah, they need to be staked usually. So, and then houseplants. You really can't bring your houseplants in until that evening temperature, that nighttime temperature is at least 50 degrees.
Right.
People want to keep bringing out their tropicals early, and it's just not safe.
Nope.
So just be careful of that. And lawns, you need to apply a Preemergent.
Yeah, good time now.
Okay, and what do you use for Preemergent?
Well, you know, I'm a do-it natural guy.
Right.
So.
We all hope to be.
Yeah. So I use I'm having a senior moment here. The cornmeal.
Cornmeal?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a light dressing of cornmeal.
Well, again, it's not coming to. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But there is a particular type of cornmeal that is prevents seed germination, so the weed seeds don't germinate.
Yeah, that's good. And you get that down by March 15th or so. Somewhere around that time?
Yeah. I've only found it here at Bedford's and at Nitron and Johnson.
Okay. We're just having a hard time getting nurseries to handle a lot of the organic materials, you know. So hopefully we'll talk them into carrying more of these organics.
Little by little by little.
Yeah, we'll keep working on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you can start dividing once the weather does warm up. It's just too cold right now, but once the weather warms up, you can start dividing your perennials and
Yep.
and your spring,
Yeah.
you know, things that come, hostas and so forth.
Yep.
So. And then you can fertilize your peonies and your wisteria, and you can fertilize your azaleas, right after they bloom.
Right after they bloom.
Right after they bloom.
Yeah, you want a high phosphorus number, which is the middle number.
Yeah, for the bloom.
Yeah.
Now roses, have you pruned your roses
No,
yet?
not this year.
Okay.
Because of the winter that we had that you were
Yeah.
talking about. Normally I start pruning my roses about the middle of February, but I'm holding off. I'm waiting to see the little sign of bud growth, just that first little swell, and that's when I do it.
Not the leaf growth.
No,
bud
just the swell of the bud on the stem.
Okay.
Once I see that, I know that if I don't get to it quick, I'm going to have, and I don't want it to go to leaf yet.
Yeah.
I want to beat the leaf.
Yeah.
And my rule of thumb on roses is I take mine down 50%. So there's roses in every height that you can think of, from 6 inches tall to 6 feet tall. So I take mine down 50% of what it is, and I just mark a stick at what 50% is, and I just stand the stick up in the middle of the shrub, cut it off like a marine haircut, then I look down, take out everything facing the center, and then I take out all the dead wood, and then I make sure everything around the bud union
cleaned
is
up.
clean, so the bud union is exposed and not covered up with mulch. Give it a good fertilization, and I've had good
But
luck.
climbers you can't trim
No,
yet.
you're right. Climbers you want to trim after the first big flush of blooms. So after they've done that first big blooming in the spring, as soon as that they start dying off and falling to the ground, that's when you want to go in and take those old canes out.
Okay, so vegetables, you can't plant your vegetables yet. It's just too
well,
soon.
a little too early.
And then trees and shrubs, just keep monitoring the water and make sure there's enough water out there when the early spring. And then while you're looking for information on gardening information, the Master Gardeners have a good website with a lot of information. It's bentoncountygardening.org. And of course the Garden Club has a wonderful website with a lot of information. And that's bellavistagardenclub.com. It's real easy. And the program we're having for the Garden Club meeting, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. It's going to be on the 24th of March. And we're not sure what the program is going to
I
be.
was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, because we had a program set up, but I'm not sure if that's a Zoom, if the presenter is comfortable with doing a Zoom. So we'll just have to see.
Right.
But it's always an interesting program.
Yeah, I like the one on water gardens
That was
last
very
month.
good.
That was really good.
It's very good. And then if you want more information, we're going to keep updating the website to let you know what's going on. So, and I thank you, Tony, for joining me today, sharing all
always
this
fun, Jerry.
great information. And this is a whole new world of starting seeds. If you haven't tried it, it's really fun.
Yeah, just start small,
And then
just
when
like
you-
Jerry did. Start with some styrofoam cups and a
the
plastic
only
pan
good-
from the dollar store, and
That's the only
get a
good.
pack of seeds for $2.75 and experiment. What can you lose?
That's the only good use for a styrofoam cup.
But when you get a package of zinnias and you take them and once you have the plants and you start taking those plants and putting them in all the little empty spots in your garden all throughout the garden, and it's July and August and nothing else is blooming, but you got that sea of color out there with those nice big gorgeous flowers, you'll be glad you did it.
Yeah, it's from that tiny, tiny seed.
From that tiny, tiny seed.
Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed the show and will join us again next month. Until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.
And feed the birds.
And feed the birds.